New radio in the Door County Daily News here at Soren's Vahalla Orchards. We're joined right now by Toni Sorenson, who, Toni, you have to love this time of the year because the fruit of your labor is starting right now to see as we can look at these sweet cherry blossoms right now.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of the year. Although when the season is all done and I've buttoned everything up and put it away for winter, depending on how it went, I'll tell you that might be my favorite part of the year. But no, truly, this is the most beautiful time of the year. As someone who works in an orchard and plants all of these trees, and when you look at it, you're just like, okay, it was all worth it. It's so gorgeous. So we're standing right in front of one of our earliest varieties of sweet cherries. So as you can see, these blossoms are just beautiful right now.
We're going to just zoom in so everybody can get a nice look at these blossoms. And when you take a look at these blossoms, you've obviously done this for a number of years at this point, and we'll go into that more detail when we talk to you as a part of the Door County Farm Bureau series that we're doing. When you look at these blossoms, can you kind of tell, okay, this tree is going to be full of fruit later, we're going to have a good year, bad year? What's the story that these blossoms can tell us now?
Yeah, they start to indicate to us right away kind of what's going to happen. So as the blossoms open up, we start to see the story. Cherry growers are watching the buds right away. So there are days that everybody else is really excited that it's 60 degrees out, but it was 25 overnight, and that makes cherry growers nervous. Okay, so we know that when they're in the bud stage, before they open up and show us all their beauty, we know that there's a ton of buds, but they're probably not all going to come to fruition or form fruit. What you can see here is now the very beginning, that will be our cherry in the end. All these blossoms have the potential to become a cherry. Now they won't all become a cherry, and that's okay, because if every single blossom on this tree became fruit, viable fruit, the branches might be so heavy that the tree would start to break. So if you see how the trees are structured, we want them to be open. We want to get sunlight in to ripen that fruit. So we spend a lot of time managing the shape of the tree, and then we just want to try to keep these trees viable for as long as possible. So we actually are okay if some of them don't turn into fruit. But we start watching in the bud stage, and then a lot of people just cut branches and take them home and put them in a cup of water, and it'll take a couple days for those to bloom. We actually also are part of a paid scouting program through the Peninsula Research Station. So they'll do that. They'll do cuttings, and they'll also let us know what percentage of frost damage they anticipate at that point in time. So again, that major fluctuation in temperature, when buds are in the water stage, if it gets too cold at night, that is going to kill some of them. So there's just a lot of havoc that weather can have on our industry, just like every other crop that people grow. So, there's a lot of nervousness, but there's also a lot of beauty and excitement that comes with the season. Now,
was there a time during this off season for you where maybe you're listening to the weather or looking at different forecasts and things like that, and you got, I don't know, what are we going to see here? Was there any moments like that, or were you pretty confident everything was going to be okie dokie?
No, there's definitely moments, and not only are we watching the weather patterns here in the peninsula, and the reason cherries are grown here is because of our insulation, right? We have this water around us, we have the Bay of Green Bay, we've got Lake Michigan, and then we also have our dolomitic soil types, which help aid in everything that cherries need. But we also watch the weather patterns in Michigan. So, and any other cherry growing state in the country, the industry is fairly small. So based on what the crops are doing around the country and whose cherries are going to yield more or less, that is all going to dictate in the end, if you're a cherry grower, where those cherries might end up in the supply chain, and ultimately the value of that fruit in the end. So sweet cherries are a little bit different thing. We do most of that as just a fresh market. But the tart cherries, a huge part of that ends up being packaged and put in the freezer so that other people can make other products like cherry pie fill, dried cherries, all that kind of stuff. So we're watching our own weather patterns, sometimes getting nervous. And yes, there are nights when we're checking our weather stations. We've got a weather station right at this location, so we can check well, what was the low, and then there's a lot of, head scratching and maybe some crabby drinks of coffee in the morning, and then we get over it and move on because we're really not in control of any of it.
And so We always talk about during the fall, people come up to see the fall colors, but there's a lot of people that come up to Door County to see the spring colors, see the blossoms.
Yes.
Give us that blossom forecast. Obviously, these are at or near full bloom right now. Tart cherries usually a couple of weeks behind that. What can we expect for people that are looking to plan that trip, as we saw a couple here, just to walk around and check out the blossoms?
Yeah, so luckily, if you're tuning into this, you're hearing, okay, it's cherry blossom time. We are in like some of the most southern orchards in Door County. So the closer we are to the Bay of Green Bay, the warmer it is. So like our orchard in Brussels is blooming. Our tart cherries there are blooming. They're, maybe 50 to 70% bloom right now, almost full bloom. Right now it looks like popcorn out here in the tart cherries. They're just starting to pop, and we should have a good couple beautiful days maybe through this weekend. But if you head farther north, those are just going to be starting here shortly. So again, as you travel northeast up the peninsula and you have the cooler temperatures of Lake Michigan, the closer you are to the lake, the later those are to bloom. So you won't miss it. You've got hopefully a good 10-day span here to get here and see some beautiful cherry blossoms. The sweets are, usually 8 to 10 days ahead of the tarts, and that's what we're seeing here. So I would say the earliest sweets are in full bloom right now in all of their glory, and we've got some later varieties of sweets that you'll see open up even more over the next couple days. So one of our locations where we do our pick your own is located at on Idlewild Road, and we invite people to park in our parking lot and walk around and view the cherry blossoms. Feel free to take pictures. Just beware, there are sometimes tractors out here and people working and whatever, but we do want people to be able to enjoy everything that this county has to offer. The other fun fact, if you're into fun facts, is
I love fun facts.
Drive down the road past the orchard, you will be able to easily see the difference between the tart cherries and the sweet cherries, and also the different sweet cherry varieties. We're standing by the earliest variety. So we have 15 different varieties of sweet cherries planted here, and there's only a couple of them that are planted out of order. Otherwise, it's supposed to go earliest to latest variety, but there are a couple rows that if you pay attention, you'll be like, oh, she planted that one out of order. Sometimes it's just based on
Toni.
what you grabbed at the time, or if rain was coming or whatever, but most of it is planted in the right order, and that's how we open the rows during pick your own season. Sometimes people are like, well, why can't I go pick over there? That fruit looks great too, but it's not ripe. The taste test is every morning I come through and taste the fruit before you guys get to come and pick it, and we make sure it's ripe enough to pick. So,
well, that time will come in July?
Yes, usually about mid-July. So a good thing to pay attention to is 60 days from petal fall. So and what that means is in a couple days or a week from now, this place will look like it's snowing, and that just means that the blossoms are starting to fall off the trees, and it is actually the most serene thing. So if you can't find me, it's probably because I'm laying between a row, just letting it happen, because it's like snow, but it's not cold. Yep. It's so beautiful. But that's our trigger. 60 days from then we expect to have ripe fruit. Again, with Mother Nature's help in that. So something that's interesting now is we've had some warmer temperatures this week. So bloom can take a little while, but when it heats up really fast, we can be in full bloom within a couple days. And that also leads to some other conversations about okay, how much bee activity have we had during that time? Because pollination needs to happen. So cherries are perfect flowers, which means they can self-pollinate, but we still want to aid them with the insect help and things like that, because the more they pollinate, the more fruit we get. In a perfect world, we'd have a cool breezy day, which would help the bees fly around and do their thing. So when we get a lot of overcast or rain like this, the insects don't like being out in that. So but they like the same temperatures we do, so that's what we want to see during bloom.
Well, Toni, we will be back in July once again as a part of our Door County Farm Bureau series. And when we come back, there'll be fruit on the trees, and we'll have to sample some of these.
Yeah, I'm hoping you guys are here right during harvest, which will be an exciting time. So thanks for your time, Tim.
Toni Sorenson from Soren's Vahalla Orchards. You're listening to New Radio and the Door County Daily News.